Good morning, Friday morning, in fact, and it is Friday, and ready to go for this session. All right, team, live class, good to go, recording class whenever you're doing this, let's do it. Yeah, I wouldn't have a feeling after the last couple of sessions, Monday, Wednesday, tough sessions, I thought. I can feel some achiness in those legs, but it feels good to be working all of those muscles. So let's do a little bit of work today, but let's focus more on a stretch and a restorative session. So we're going to do a quick warm up and then into a stretching routine. So I'm going to start out with our squat to press movement. I'm going to grab one dumbbell and we're going to take this fairly steady. We're going to start down in that squat position and just hold. If you've not got your hand weights available, don't worry about it too much. We're down in this squat position. We're just going to hold here and just take a few moments just to breathe into the length of the back. Allow the shoulders to soften down. So as in the shoulder blades softening down the back. Breathe. All right. Aware that the spine is in that neutral alignment. Knees are in line with the toes. Hips are back. Good. All right. So imagine that squat to press movement from this squat position into that high press. Smoothly, slowly lift up and reach high. Holding this position for a moment. Noticing that we're not leaning back. We're extending through the length of the back. Reaching up high. Good, and you've got that full length to the legs. Good. All right, take it slowly back into that squat. So lowering back down, refinding that squat position. Good. So those two positions and the smoothness of transition between them. Doing a few repetitions here, that's slower than our regular tempo from squat to press. Aware of that smoothness between those two positions. That coordination between the legs, the torso, the arms, the way that midsection holds it together, and that groundedness through the feet. Good. Take it back to that squat after this one, back into the squat. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to just shuffle around a little bit here. Okay, and imagine that lunge position. So in plunger, when we go from squat to lunge, then we can transition into that lunge position. So I'm gonna step back with one foot and find lunge. I'm gonna have the dumbbell in the same hand as the leg that's back. All right, here, bring that back up straight. Aware that that spine is still in that neutral alignment. Even if you were leaned forward a moment ago, the back is now up straight. If you do have that dumbbell, you can reach up and stretch high, or just reach up with that arm. Feel that length through the side body. And perhaps we could move that arm back down and then re-lift, again feeling that smoothness of transition between lifted and lowered. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't have a dumbbell. There, nice, lift and hold. There, feel how we're on the flat of the foot on that front foot and the ball of the foot on the back foot. Good. All right, see if we can hold that arm high, but do a small lower of the lunge and lift back up. Lower and lift. Again, that smoothness of movement in between the lowered position and the lifted position. Wait a minute, I thought this was going to be a restorative session. We're working lunges. What's going on? Okay, down and up with this lunge. There. Okay, hold that lifted position. There. Bring the arm back down. Good. Take your dumbbell in both hands. Think about that squat movement like a plunger movement. Transition back to that squat. There. Smoothly back to the lunge with the other foot. Here. Dumbbell in the other hand. Back up straight. Have we found that static lunge position? Reach high with that dumbbell. Hold it there for a moment. The flat of the foot on that front foot. The ball of the foot on that back foot. Reaching high, opening through the torso. And then we lower down and re-lift that dumbbell. The smoothness of transition, keep that going. Good, your awareness of form. One more, lift high. And then holding that high, gently lower and lifting in this lunge position. Good, that arm lengthened high. Good, lift and hold. There, dumbbell in both hands. Think about that squat position, transition to it. Lowered down into that squat. Strong through the back. Nice, shoulder blades down. Squat to press, think about that lifted position. Reach up, hold that lift, up high. 3, 2, 1, and relax it down. Nice, okay, I'm going to find the other dumbbell here. All right, so I've got 2 dumbbells, one in each hand. Again, don't worry if you don't have them, it's not entirely essential. All right, give me a single leg, knee lift. Here, and hold. Breathe. Good. All right, single leg knee lift. Let's just see how we're able to hold this balance. So pelvis is level, shoulders are level, back is up straight, as if nothing has changed with your posture. And kick outs from there with nothing else changing. Right, so we must have done this millions of times here. Right, how are we able to do this? Kicking out at a diagonal if necessary. Kicking out towards the horizontal if you can. Shoulders stay down. Good. All right. So I would guess that you're able to do this with, I'm going to say this, at least a good degree of competence. Is that fair enough? Okay. All right, wherever you're able to kick out that leg, all right, be encouraged with the progress that you've made with movements like this. Having seen quite a lot of runners recently at Achilles heel, amazed at how difficult this is for so many people if they've not done any functional strength training. Okay, so it's never going to be super easy to do this, but the progress that you can make by working on this sort of thing to minimize restriction through that leg, through the knee, through the hip, and strengthen that hip flexor. Okay, bring it back and down. Good. Whew. Okay, always feel those hips working. Stand tall, other side, knee lift up, find your balance. Even there, feeling more confident in that balanced single leg position. Shoulder blades down, back up straight. Aware of that standing alignment. And then without anything else changing, kick outs. Perhaps feeling slightly different from one side compared to the other. Or maybe just a warming up and loosening up of this leg. Shoulders down. Good. Nice. A few more here. Stand tall. Good. And then lower down. I'm going to stay with that knee lift position, where you could keep both feet flat on the floor, but we're going to take these arms up into a shoulder press here. All right, onto that knee lift if you like. The knee's just going to stay still and we're doing a shoulder press, but hold that start position for a moment. All right, now think about the elbows where they are. Imagine them being drawn apart so the elbows are wide. Now, I don't mean pulled back, they're kind of there already, but traveling out the way. Now, they're not going to move, but just imagine that space in that shoulder joint. So it's the opposite of being hunched up and compressed. We're reaching up and lowering down. Reaching up and lowering down so the elbows are wide as the dumbbells come down. So that ball and socket joint of the shoulder is stable and strong, but it's moving without compression. So there's space within that joint. Nice, and all the time balancing on a single leg. Oh, team, well trained. 2 and 1 and lower down. Good, all right. Obviously we're doing the same thing on the other side. Stand tall, shoulders down, knee lift up. So switch legs, find your balance. There, pelvis is level, shoulders are level, arms come back up. Refine that start position. Elbows far apart, wrists above elbows. Lift up, shoulder press. Long through the neck. Symmetry through that arm movement. Yeah, team, it takes a awareness and focus and effort on everything that's going on here. Good. One more after this. Nice, and lower down. Whew, all right, nice. Right, dumbbells can be popped down here. You've hopefully got your mat or some space available to you. We're going to take this down onto the floor. We're going to take it down onto the hands and either walk the feet back on the knees, that does make sense, with the shoulders over the hands, walk the feet back as far as you can to keep the shoulders on the hands, but if you can, tuck the toes, lift up into high plank position. If that's not going to work for you, it's fine to keep the knees down on the floor, but otherwise, lift up, high plank position, and hold. And as you hold this high plank position, bring your awareness to how those shoulders are stabilizing themselves to hold this position. Perhaps get some movement around that shoulder blade to find that strongest positioning of that shoulder girdle. I think about that space within that shoulder joint, perhaps broadening through the upper back. So that joint is strong and supported and stable. But there's space in that joint. There's space across the shoulders. Good. Lengthened through the arms. All right. Good. All right, we're going to go into a runner's lunge in a moment, and we'll step forwards with the left foot. So left foot steps forwards towards the hands. Shuffle yourself around if you need to. Left forearm can go on left knee, perhaps up onto the fingertips of the right hand, and shine the chest forwards, that intention of lifting up and forwards. All right, so we're still in this long runner's lunge, finding a position that feels right for you and settle into it. Feel how the body is aligned. Good. Yeah, feel that openness through that back leg. Good. Yeah, that supporting hand, either that hand could be flat on the floor, up onto the fingertips. If you've got a soft floor, it could be on the knuckles. Not sure how I feel about that. Flat of the hand, perhaps. That supported left arm on the left knee. We can go onto the hand on that arm and begin to open out through the chest and shoulder. See if you can find that length to the torso. In contrast to rounding through the back, we're opening through the torso. And we can add that rotation if it's there for us. Keeping that length to the back leg. Yes, breathe into the torso. Nice. All right, keeping that arm extended, can we circle it around? All the way around and then send it forwards. Good. That extended left arm refines the left knee. That back foot flattens over to the side, and we can lift out that right arm to the hip or extend it all the way up high towards the ceiling. And breathe into that openness. Good. All right, so perhaps as we take these movements a little bit slower this morning, you can spend a little bit longer with your awareness, taking in the way the whole body is stacked and aligned. How you can bring length and openness, and to let go of certain tensions or restrictions in different parts of the body. Perhaps that elevated right arm can reach now over in line with the body. Good. And then circle that arm around towards that back hip. So right hand, right hip, and then using that momentum, lift up with the left arm. And again, breathe into that expansion. Never quite sure where the head feels restful here, whether to look up through that extended left arm, or whether allow the gaze to drift more neutrally, or even back through the length of that right leg. Just allowing the head to find a position where the neck feels unweighted and the shoulder blades can settle. Take the arms back to the horizontal, finding that warrior two position. Shuffling the feet if you need to, and settling down into that stance. Good. All right, from here, we're going to lengthen both legs, so lifting up through that front leg, resettling the shoulders. And again, you might want to just walk the feet slightly closer together, but keeping that same alignment of the feet. So we're now lengthened through both legs here, shoulder blades down. We're going to reach forwards with the left fingertips, so send this stance forwards, but keep the legs where they are. That right hand can find right hip. We're going to reach down towards the floor with that left arm. It can prop itself on the inside of the leg if that helps. And just hold it in that position that feels manageable to you and open out through that right shoulder. If you like, you can re-lift that right arm up towards the vertical. So you're in something like a high triangle pose. High in the sense that we've not reached down right down towards the floor. And you've got that triangle alignment of the legs and also through this left arm in its position with the leg. Does that make sense? And again, where does this feel comfortable with the head? To look up through the length of that right arm, or to look down towards the floor, or somewhere neutral? That openness of energy through the chest. All right, bring that back around, bring it up, arms re-find the horizontal and settle back down into warrior two. I find that a challenging position to go into, and there's a lot of restriction, there's a lot of work required through that midsection to feel supported in that position. So I wouldn't encourage you to push particularly low in that pose, but rather to work with the position that you feel strong in. Right, so from warrior two, think about that runner's lunge. Pivot that back foot round, bring the hands back down to the floor, re-find runner's lunge. Here. Pop that back knee down on the floor, lift up, hip flexor stretch, reach high with the right. There. Good. Nice stretch through that hip flexor. And then we're going to take this back towards high plank position. So bring the hand back down to the floor, other hand on the floor as well. Step back with that foot, walk the knees back if you need to, tuck the toes, lift up into high plank. Re-lengthen, re-broaden the shoulders. Now that's definitely not a word. Re-broaden, lengthen the arms. Breathe. Okay, let's lift the hips up into a downward facing dog. And then transition back into high plank. All right, let's take that same routine through on the other side then. So right foot is going to make its way forwards into a long runner's lunge. You can bring that right hand onto the right knee. Good. All right, so either right hand, right knee, or right forearm, right knee, but that feeling of a supported runner's lunge. And as we go through the stretching routine on this side, just making sure we're going through this with that that approach of gentleness and kindness to the body, not forcing ourselves in positions, but to take it to that edge of the range of movement, to breathe into it, and to see if there's movement which opens up to us, restrictions that can be eased. All right, open the chest forwards, open it out to the side. Maybe that right hand finds the right knee. Maybe we bring that rotation, and perhaps we reach up with that right arm. So you've got that length and that openness, this long lunge position. That arm can circle around, staying extended, and then go forwards to emphasize the length of this position from fingertips through the side body, through that opposite leg. And that extended right arm can find the right knee. The back foot flattens, the left arm reaches up through and stretches high. Good, moving into that openness, breathing into that openness. Again, the head finding a position that feels restful. And then that arm could come in line with the rest of the torso. Or perhaps that head wants to change position and now look forwards through that extended left arm. Or maybe it wants to stay more neutral. Good. All right, here's our transition. We circle this arm around. Left hand finds left hip, settle that shoulder blade down. This supporting right arm lifts, extends, reaches up high. Notice how that right shoulder blade stays down. It might want to hitch up, but it settles back down. Openness is through the torso. Good. Warrior two, arms come back to the horizontal, shoulder blades settle again, and we settle down into that stance. Breathe. Good, soften any tension that's perhaps accumulated, even tension through the forehead, tension through the eyes, soften. Good. All right, then from here, we might want to shuffle the stance just a little bit closer together, but keeping that alignment as in front foot, that right foot points forward, left foot slightly out to the side, and re-lengthen, re-straighten that front arm, leg, front leg. All right, standing tall here. So this transition again, we're going to reach it forwards. So right arm, right fingertips reach forwards, right arm reaches down, back hand, back hip, and we're here. So you can see I don't need to go too low here. It's a side flexion from the waist, and I can open out through that left arm. So right arm reaching down inside of this leg, perhaps using this leg for a slight support here. And that hinge comes from the waist. You'll probably find that you've got a lot more movement than I have, some of you, through the hips, through here. So that side flexion might come with less restriction than it does for me. That's fine. A strong position. Legs in that triangle alignment. Arms forming another triangle. Shoulder blades down. Nice. All right, slowly bringing this back out, refinding the horizontal, settling down into warrior two, perhaps re-lengthening that stance. Just imagining doing this, when we do beach yoga sessions, the feet can just shuffle in the sand, they can move, they can have that mobility, although it's usually a broadening mobility, it's harder to shift them inwards. There, good. All right, runner's lunge. Thinking about that runner's lunge, transition through, pivoting on that back foot, the hands come down, gracefully down towards the floor, long runner's lunge, resettling into that position, and then the back knee, that left knee goes down, lift up, hip flexor stretch, reaching up high. Good. And then take that back down to the floor, stepping back, walking the knees back, tucking the toes, lifting up into high plank, and then lifting up into a downward facing dog. Good. All right, bring it back down onto the knees, rolling over into a seated position. Bring the feet together, so the soles of the feet together. And bringing the heels in towards you, or walking the sit bones in towards the heels, and bringing the back up straight into that clam stretch. So the knees are wide, stretching into the adductors. Okay. Yes, good. All right, let's keep that right heel tucked in, but extend that left leg away so that right foot comes into contact with the inside thigh. So this hamstring stretch here through this left leg, hinging forwards from the waist. You might need to reach forwards to lengthen that stretch, or this might be enough, but either way, to that point of stretch, breathing into it, releasing on the exhale. So see if you can find a nice stretch for the back of that leg. Yeah, whilst keeping sort of like a symmetry from the sit bones up through the torso, so we've not contorted ourselves too much. Oh, and you might be able to reach forwards with the with the right arm. Oh, I find that quite a challenge, but there's almost a helpful stretch in there somewhere. So it's like you're reaching forwards with the opposite arm. Or you might feel there's enough of a stretch there already. All right, bring that foot back, refine the sole of the other foot, feet pressed together, clam stretch, refine that height to the torso. Breathe into that, and then lengthening through the right leg now. Right leg extends out, left sole of the foot inside, gently pushing away with the heel of that right foot. And hinge forwards to that point of stretch and breathe into it. So although we're doing this as a Friday class, this is a sort of sequence of stretches. If you had the time, it would be helpful to do after your Monday and Wednesday classes, or after you've done a workout or a run where the body is warmed up and worked, but can then re-lengthen and detension. I'm not sure any of these are proper words. You know, the opposite of tensing up. Unfurling. All right, bring that back up. And then let's extend both legs out in front. One last stretch here as you inhale and then exhale down towards the toes in that forward fold in the seated position. Good. All right, so if there were any particular areas of tension through that sequence, any areas that you know that you need to keep working on, well, do it. Make it part of your regular routine. Gently stretching out, re-lengthening, letting go of restrictions, increasing your range of movement. All right, bring that back up. How are we doing here? 8:02, crikey, overtime. Bring that up to standing. Whew. All right, shake out those legs. Nice, feeling energized, good to go. Excellent, team. All right, so a little bit of work at the start, but moving into a more restorative session. Doesn't mean that it's easy though, does it? Brilliant. Right, 3 sessions done this week. We're back in next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 on each one. Yes, it is. All right, team, I will see you on the other side of the weekend. Have a good one, whatever you're all up to. And yeah, I'll see you Monday morning. All right, team, good job today. Catch you next time.